The Awakening of the Titans. Commander Kellen Dre stood at the helm of the Galactic Council chamber, his heart pounding as he stared at the holographic display flickering ominously before him. Reports flooded in from various sectors, each one more alarming than the last. The council members, representatives from 23 different species, were silent, their expressions a mix of disbelief and fear. "Sir," Lieutenant Raxel's voice broke through the tension, his bioluminescent skin pulsing with anxiety. "We've lost contact with Outpost Zeta 9. The humans have taken control." Kellen clenched his fists, trying to suppress his rising anger. "This cannot be right," he growled, pacing back and forth across the polished floor. "How could a species barely out of its own atmosphere manage to overpower our defenses? They are nothing but primitive creatures." As if in response to his frustration, another alert blared across the chamber. A red light flashed urgently on the display, signaling yet another breach in their security systems. Kellen's mind raced as he tried to piece together what was happening. "High Commander Dre," spoke Supreme General Thaler, stepping forward with an air of authority despite his obvious unease. "Our intelligence suggested that humans were too emotionally unstable to pose any real threat to galactic stability." Kellen shot him a glare that could cut through steel. "And how is that analysis working out for us now?" His voice dripped with sarcasm as he gestured toward the screen where images of chaos unfolded, human ships emerging from shadows like phantoms, striking at their core worlds with ruthless efficiency. The council chamber fell into an uneasy silence as they absorbed the implications of what was unfolding before them. For over 10,000 years, they had dominated this galaxy, crushing civilizations and instilling fear in those who dared oppose them. Yet here they stood on the brink of annihilation by a race they had deemed inferior. "Admiral Yara," Kellen called out suddenly, turning toward one of his most trusted advisors. "What do we know about these human vessels?" Admiral Yara's tentacles twitched nervously as she examined her data pad. "They appear to be repurposed cargo ships, sir," she reported cautiously. "Our analysis suggested they were merely civilian vessels." "Civilian vessels?" Kellen echoed incredulously. "They're attacking us with them. This is madness." The holographic display shifted again, revealing footage from Outpost Zeta 9, a once thriving colony now reduced to smoldering ruins under an unrelenting assault from human forces. Kellen felt bile rise in his throat as he watched helplessly, families torn apart and lives extinguished in mere moments. "Lieutenant Raxel," he said firmly, regaining his composure. "Prepare our fleet for immediate mobilization." "Yes, sir." Raxel responded quickly, though his bioluminescent spots flickered with uncertainty. As Kellen turned back toward the council members, he saw fear etched on their faces, the kind of fear that had not been present in centuries. "Listen closely," he commanded, his voice steady despite the turmoil within him. "We will not be cowed by these humans. We will show them what it means to challenge our authority." But deep down, Kellen felt a gnawing doubt creeping into his mind. Had they underestimated humanity? Had their arrogance blinded them to a truth that was now painfully evident? Before he could ponder further, another alert interrupted him. A message from Admiral Lisa Rodriguez of the Human Liberation Fleet flashed across the screen. Kellen's heart raced as he prepared himself for whatever taunt or threat would come next. "Shall I play it?" Raxel asked hesitantly. "Do it." Kellen barked impatiently. The message began with a crackling sound before Rodriguez's voice filled the chamber, calm yet laced with authority that sent shivers down Kellen's spine. "High Commander Dre," she began coolly, "you thought you could break us? You thought we would submit? Instead, you taught us something valuable." Kellen felt sweat bead on his forehead as he listened intently. "You taught us that this galaxy doesn't respect diplomacy or culture, it only respects power." With each word she spoke, Kellen felt a growing sense of dread wash over him. This was no ordinary message, it was a declaration of war. "And now," Rodriguez continued ominously, we're going to show you exactly how much power humanity has been hiding." As her words echoed in his mind like an ominous drumbeat, Kellen realized that they had awakened something far more dangerous than they had anticipated, a force fueled by rage and vengeance that would stop at nothing to reclaim what had been unjustly taken from them. "What have we done?" Kellen whispered under his breath as he faced his fellow council members, each one grappling with their own fears about what lay ahead. In that moment of realization, Kellen understood that this was only just beginning. The terrifying day when humanity unleashed its wrath upon an unsuspecting universe had arrived. A call to arms. Admiral Tasha Voss stood on the bridge of the starship Valor, her gaze fixed on the expansive view screen that displayed the chaotic scene unfolding in the galaxy. The reports were dire. Humanity had unleashed a wave of retaliation that had caught the Galactic Council completely off guard. Ships were being lost, colonies devastated, and their once unquestioned dominance was now in jeopardy. "Status report," Tasha commanded, her voice steady despite the tumultuous emotions roiling within her. "Admiral," her tactical officer, Ensign Rylan, replied, his fingers dancing across the control panel. "We've received multiple distress signals from core worlds. The human fleet is advancing rapidly, and our defenses are crumbling." Tasha felt a pang of frustration. How had it come to this? For centuries, they had viewed humanity as a mere nuisance, an insignificant species barely capable of interstellar travel. Yet here they were, facing an enemy that had transformed their perceived weakness into a formidable strength. "Divert all available resources to reinforce the Centaur Prime defense perimeter," she ordered, her mind racing to formulate a strategy. "We cannot allow them to breach our core worlds." "Yes, ma'am," Rylan responded, his voice laced with urgency. As Tasha paced the bridge, she reflected on her past encounters with humanity. She remembered the first time she had met them during a diplomatic mission years ago. They had been eager yet unpredictable, their emotions raw and palpable. She had dismissed their passion as a flaw, something that would ultimately lead to their downfall. Now, she realized that it was precisely that passion which fueled their resolve. "Admiral," Rylan interrupted her thoughts. "We're receiving a transmission from Admiral Rodriguez of the Human Liberation Fleet." Tasha's heart raced at the mention of Rodriguez's name. The woman was known for her tactical genius and fierce determination, a combination that made her both respected and feared throughout the galaxy. "Put it through," Tasha said, steeling herself for whatever was about to unfold. The view screen flickered before revealing Admiral Rodriguez's face. She appeared calm yet resolute, a stark contrast to the chaos surrounding them. "Admiral Voss," Rodriguez began, her voice steady and commanding. "You've underestimated us for far too long. You believed that your technology and military might would keep us in check. But you've awakened something in us, a fury that will not be quelled." Tasha felt a chill run down her spine as Rodriguez continued. "You attacked our colony on Nova Terra without mercy," she said, her eyes narrowing with intensity. "You thought it would teach us our place in this galaxy. Instead, it ignited a fire within us, a fire that will consume everything you hold dear." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving Tasha in stunned silence. The implications of Rodriguez's words hung heavily in the air. They were no longer just fighting against an enemy, they were facing a force driven by vengeance. "Admiral," Rylan spoke hesitantly, breaking through her reverie. "What are your orders?" Tasha took a deep breath, her mind racing through potential strategies. They needed to regroup and adapt quickly. Humanity was not following any known combat doctrine, they were unpredictable and chaotic in their tactics. "Prepare to initiate evasive maneuvers," she commanded decisively. "We need to keep our ships moving and avoid becoming easy targets." As the crew scrambled to execute her orders, Tasha couldn't shake the feeling of dread settling over her like a heavy cloak. She knew they had made grave mistakes, underestimating humanity's capacity for resilience and revenge would be their undoing. With each passing moment, reports flooded in from various sectors, ships disappearing from sensors without warning, colonies falling under sudden assault, and distress signals echoing through the void of space. The once mighty Galactic Council was crumbling under the weight of its own arrogance. "Admiral!" Ryland shouted suddenly, his voice tinged with panic. "We're detecting multiple signatures approaching from all directions." Tasha's heart raced as she turned back to the view screen just in time to see a swarm of human vessels materializing out of seemingly thin air, dark silhouettes against the backdrop of stars. "They're everywhere!" Rylan exclaimed as alarms blared throughout the bridge. "Divert power to shields," Tasha ordered urgently. "Prepare all weapon systems for immediate engagement." The crew sprang into action as Tasha gripped the edge of her command chair, steeling herself for what lay ahead. The human fleet moved with an agility that defied logic. They danced through formations like predators stalking their prey. "Admiral Rodriguez is broadcasting again," Rylan shouted over the cacophony of alarms. "Put it on screen," Tasha commanded. Rodriguez's face reappeared on the view screen, this time accompanied by footage from Nova Terra, the devastation wrought by their initial attack replayed in haunting detail. "You wanted to teach us fear?" Rodriguez said coldly. "You wanted us to submit? Look around you. This is what happens when you underestimate humanity. We are not weak, we are survivors." The footage shifted to show human ships executing maneuvers that seemed almost artistic in their precision. They flowed seamlessly through formations while unleashing devastating barrages against Council vessels. Tasha felt a surge of anger mixed with admiration. These humans were fighting back with everything they had, and they were winning. "Admiral!" Ryland shouted again as another alert blared across the bridge. "We've lost contact with 2 more ships." Tasha clenched her jaw as she watched helplessly. They were losing control faster than she could comprehend. "Reinforce our flanks. We need to hold them off until we can regroup," she ordered fiercely. But deep down, she knew it might be too late. The tide was turning against them. As chaos erupted around her, Tasha couldn't shake off the feeling that this battle would define not only their fate but also humanity's place in the galaxy. They had awakened something primal within these beings, a wrath fueled by loss and vengeance that would not easily be extinguished. Hours passed like days as they fought tooth and nail against an enemy who refused to yield. Every moment brought new horrors as human ships continued to breach their defenses with relentless tenacity. Finally, just when it seemed all hope was lost, Tasha caught sight of something extraordinary, a glimmer of strategy emerging amidst chaos as human ships began coordinating attacks with uncanny precision. "What are they doing?" she murmured aloud as she watched in disbelief. "They're adapting," Rylan replied quietly beside her. "They're learning from us." And just like that, Tasha realized that humanity was no longer fighting merely for survival. They were fighting for dominance in a galaxy that had long underestimated them. As explosions rocked their ship and alarms blared relentlessly around them, Tasha knew one thing for certain: this battle was far from over, and neither side would emerge unscathed from its aftermath. The human response. Captain Leo Hart stood at the command center of the human warship Vengeance, his heart pounding with adrenaline as he surveyed the chaos unfolding on the view screen. The Galactic Council had underestimated humanity for far too long, and now it was time to show them the true extent of their capabilities. The reports of their initial attack on Nova Terra had ignited a fire within him, a fire that demanded retribution. "Status report." Leo barked, his voice cutting through the tension in the air. "Sir," his first officer, Lieutenant Mira Chen, replied, her eyes glued to her console. "We've received confirmation that our forces are engaging the Council's fleet across multiple sectors. The initial wave is holding strong, but they're regrouping quickly." Leo nodded, his mind racing with thoughts of strategy. The Council had made a grave mistake in attacking Nova Terra. They had awakened a sleeping giant. Humanity was no longer just a collection of disparate nations, they were united by a common purpose, a desire for justice and survival. Prepare to launch the second wave, Leo commanded. We need to maintain pressure on their defenses. They cannot be allowed to regroup. Yes, Captain. Mira responded, her fingers flying over the controls as she relayed his orders. As Leo watched the tactical display, he couldn't help but reflect on how far humanity had come. Just a few decades ago, they had been struggling to establish a foothold in space travel. Now, they were launching a full-scale war against an empire that had dominated the galaxy for millennia. It was a testament to their resilience and ingenuity. Captain, Mira interrupted his thoughts. We're receiving a transmission from Admiral Rodriguez. Put it through, Leo said, eager to hear from the commander who had inspired them all. The view screen flickered before displaying Admiral Rodriguez's determined face. Leo, she began, her voice steady and resolute. We're making progress, but we need to be smart about this. The Council will not go down without a fight. I understand, Admiral, Leo replied, feeling a surge of pride at her leadership. We'll keep pushing forward. They've underestimated us before, we can't let them do it again. Rodriguez nodded, her expression fierce. Good. Remember what we're fighting for, our homes, our families, and our future. We cannot let their tyranny continue. With that, the transmission ended, leaving Leo with a renewed sense of purpose. He turned back to his crew, who were focused intently on their tasks. Let's show them what humanity is made of, he shouted, igniting the spirits of those around him. As they prepared for battle, Leo's thoughts drifted back to Nova Terra, the lives lost and families shattered by the Council's ruthless attack. He could still hear the echoes of children's laughter in his mind, now silenced forever by their cruelty. That memory fueled his determination. He would not rest until justice was served. Captain, Mira called out suddenly, breaking him from his reverie. We have enemy contacts approaching from all sides. Deploy defensive maneuvers. Leo ordered immediately as he gripped the edge of his command chair. The ship shook as enemy fire rained down upon them. Alarms blared throughout the vessel as crew members scrambled to respond to incoming attacks. Return fire. Leo commanded, adrenaline coursing through him as he watched enemy ships swarm around them like angry hornets. The Vengeance unleashed its weapons in response, energy beams cutting through space with deadly precision. Human ships moved in formation around him, each one brimming with determination and purpose. Captain. We're taking heavy damage. Mira shouted over the din of alarms. Divert power from non-essential systems to shields. Leo ordered, refusing to back down even as their ship shuddered under enemy fire. Suddenly, another alert flashed on the tactical display, a message from one of their reconnaissance vessels. Sir. We've detected a massive concentration of enemy ships gathering near Centaur Prime, an ensign reported urgently. Mobilize our forces. We need to intercept them before they can reinforce their defenses. Leo commanded fiercely. As they maneuvered toward Centaur Prime, Leo felt a surge of hope mixed with trepidation. They were fighting against an empire that had ruled through fear and intimidation for too long. Now was their chance to turn the tide. Captain. Mira shouted suddenly as she monitored incoming data streams. The Council is broadcasting video feeds across the galaxy, showing footage from Nova Terra. What? Leo exclaimed incredulously as he turned to face her. Why would they do that? They're trying to rally support and instill fear among other species, she explained quickly. They want everyone to see what happens when you cross them. Leo felt anger boil within him at their audacity. It was one thing to attack them but another entirely to use propaganda as a weapon against those who had suffered at their hands. Let's turn their own tactics against them, he said grimly. Prepare our own broadcasts, show the galaxy what true strength looks like. Yes, Captain. Mira replied with renewed vigor as she set to work coordinating their response. As they approached Centaur Prime's orbit, Leo couldn't shake off the feeling that this battle would define not only humanity's fate but also its place in history. They were no longer fighting merely for survival, they were fighting for recognition and respect, a chance to stand shoulder to shoulder with other species rather than cowering beneath an oppressive regime. The Vengeance surged forward into battle alongside its fleet, human ships moving with fluidity and grace as they engaged the enemy forces head-on. Fire at will. Leo shouted as he watched enemy vessels explode in bursts of light against the dark backdrop of space. With each victory came a surge of hope, the realization that humanity was capable of so much more than anyone had ever imagined. As explosions lit up the void around them and cheers erupted from his crew, Leo felt an overwhelming sense of pride swell within him. They were no longer just fighting for revenge, they were fighting for their place among the stars, a place where they could thrive without fear or oppression. But amidst the exhilaration came a sobering reminder: this was only just beginning. The Galactic Council would not surrender easily, they would fight tooth and nail to maintain control over what they believed was rightfully theirs. And so Captain Leo Hart steeled himself for what lay ahead, the battles yet to come and the sacrifices that would be required along the way, but he knew one thing for certain: humanity would rise together in defiance against tyranny and claim its rightful place in this vast universe. The Battle of Centaur Prime. General Arya Nox stood in the dimly lit war room of the Galactic Council, her gaze fixed on the holographic display that illuminated the faces of her fellow commanders. The tension in the room was palpable as they reviewed the latest intelligence reports from the front lines. The human forces were relentless, and their tactics were proving to be a formidable challenge. General Nox, Commander Talon, a grizzled veteran with a reputation for his strategic brilliance, addressed her with a furrowed brow. "We need to reconsider our approach. The humans are adapting faster than we anticipated." Arya nodded, her mind racing as she processed the information. "I understand, Commander. But we cannot show weakness. We must maintain our resolve and demonstrate our superiority." "Superiority?" Talon scoffed, crossing his arms. "Look around you. Our ships are being decimated, and their numbers keep growing. They fight with a ferocity we've never encountered before." The room fell silent as Arya's heart sank at the truth of his words. She had always believed in the Council's dominance over lesser species, but this conflict was challenging everything she thought she knew about humanity. They were not merely fighting for survival, they were fighting with an intensity fueled by loss and a desire for justice. "General," another officer interjected, "we've received reports from Centaur Prime. The humans are coordinating their attacks with alarming precision. If we don't act quickly, we risk losing control of the entire sector." Arya felt a surge of frustration wash over her. "We cannot allow them to dictate our strategy. We must strike hard and fast before they can regroup." As she spoke, images of Nova Terra flashed in her mind, the devastation wrought by their initial attack and the faces of those who had suffered because of it. A deep sense of unease settled within her. She had always prided herself on her tactical prowess, but now she found herself questioning the morality of their actions. "Prepare our fleet for immediate deployment," she commanded, forcing herself to focus on the task at hand. "We will launch a counteroffensive against their forces at Centaur Prime." "Yes, General," the officers replied in unison, though Arya could sense their hesitance. As they moved to execute her orders, Arya took a moment to collect her thoughts. She had dedicated her life to serving the Council, believing in its ideals and its right to govern the galaxy. But now, faced with the reality of war against humanity, she felt a growing dissonance between her beliefs and the actions required to uphold them. "General," Commander Talon said quietly as he approached her. "Are you certain we're making the right choice? We've already lost so much." Arya met his gaze, searching for answers within herself. "We have no choice but to fight," she replied firmly. "If we show any sign of weakness, they will only grow bolder." "But at what cost?" Talon pressed gently. "We're losing lives, innocent lives, on both sides. His words struck a chord deep within Arya's conscience. She had always seen war as a necessary means to an end, but now she was beginning to question whether that end justified the means. With a heavy heart, she turned back to the holographic display as it updated with real-time data from Centaur Prime's orbit. Human ships were engaging their fleet with an intensity that was both impressive and terrifying. "Deploy our forces!" Arya shouted suddenly, shaking off her doubts as adrenaline surged through her veins once more. The war room erupted into action as officers relayed commands to their respective units. Arya felt a rush of determination. They would fight for their survival and protect what they believed was theirs. As their fleet surged forward into battle formation, Arya took a moment to observe the chaos unfolding on the view screen. Explosions lit up space like fireworks against the dark backdrop of stars. Human ships darted through formations with surprising agility while unleashing barrages of fire upon council vessels. "Captain Varric," she called out to one of her commanders stationed nearby. "What's our current status?" "We're sustaining heavy losses," Varric replied grimly as he monitored incoming data streams. "The humans are relentless, they're exploiting every weakness in our defenses." Arya clenched her jaw as frustration bubbled within her. How could they have miscalculated so severely? Humanity was supposed to be weak and disorganized, not this fierce and coordinated force that threatened their very existence. "Reinforce our flanks," she ordered sharply. "We cannot allow them to break through." As they engaged in combat, Arya's mind raced with thoughts of strategy and tactics, but also with doubts about their mission's morality. Each explosion that rocked their ships echoed in her conscience, a reminder that every life lost was not just an enemy defeated but also a tragedy in its own right. "General," one officer shouted suddenly, breaking through her thoughts. "We've received an urgent transmission from Admiral Rodriguez." "Put it through," Arya commanded, eager for any insight that could turn the tide in their favor. Rodriguez's face appeared on the view screen once more, her expression fierce yet composed amidst the chaos surrounding them. "General Knox," she began without preamble, "we know what you're planning at Centaur Prime, and we won't let you succeed." Arya felt a surge of anger at Rodriguez's audacity but also an unsettling respect for her determination. "You think you can intimidate us into submission?" Arya shot back defiantly. Rodriguez shook her head slowly. "This isn't about intimidation, it's about survival, for both our species." The words hung heavily in the air as Arya considered their implications. Perhaps this conflict was not simply about dominance but rather about coexistence, a chance for understanding between two vastly different races. "If you truly believe that," Arya replied cautiously, "then why launch this war?" Rodriguez's eyes narrowed as she responded with conviction, "Because we refuse to be oppressed any longer. We will fight until every last one of us is free." As Rodriguez's transmission ended abruptly, Arya felt a mixture of admiration and dread wash over her. This was no longer just a battle for supremacy, it was a clash between ideologies that would shape the future of both species. "General!" Commander Talon called out urgently as explosions rocked their ship once more. "We're losing ground. We need to retreat." "No!" Arya shouted defiantly. "We will not retreat. We will stand our ground." But deep down inside, doubt gnawed at her resolve. Was this truly worth it? Could there be another way? As battles raged around them and chaos reigned supreme in space above Centaur Prime, General Arya Knox found herself grappling with questions that would haunt her long after this conflict ended. A new dawn. High Commander Vex Theric stood amidst the ruins of the battle, staring at the remnants of what had once been a proud fleet of the Galactic Council. The aftermath of the conflict at Centaur Prime was a stark reminder of their hubris. Ships lay scattered like broken toys, and the silence that followed the chaos felt almost deafening. He could still hear the echoes of explosions and the cries of his crew, now replaced by an unsettling quiet that seemed to mock their defeat. "Sir," Lieutenant KX's voice trembled as he approached, his bioluminescent spots flickering with distress. "We've received reports from all sectors. The humans are broadcasting their victory across the galaxy." Vex Therak's heart sank at the news. "What are they saying?" "They're showing footage of the battle, sir," KX replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "They're claiming this as a demonstration of their power, of our failure." Vex Therak clenched his fists, anger boiling within him. "How dare they? We were supposed to be the rulers of this galaxy." "Perhaps we were too confident in our superiority," KX said cautiously, his eyes darting away from Vex Therak's piercing gaze. The High Commander turned to face the holographic display, which now showed images of human ships dancing through their defenses with a grace that was both mesmerizing and terrifying. Each ship moved independently yet seamlessly, a testament to their resilience and adaptability in combat. "Look at them," Vex Therak muttered, his voice thick with frustration. "They've turned our own tactics against us." The display shifted to show Admiral Rodriguez, her expression fierce as she addressed the galaxy. "You thought you could break us? You thought we would bow? Instead, you taught us something valuable, that we are stronger than you ever imagined." Vex Therak felt a chill run down his spine as he listened to her words. The humans had not only survived, they had thrived in the face of adversity. They had transformed their pain into a weapon that had now shattered their empire's facade. "Sir," KX interrupted again, his voice trembling. "What are your orders?" Vex Therak hesitated, grappling with the weight of responsibility that now rested heavily on his shoulders. He had always believed in the Council's right to rule, a belief that had been instilled in him since childhood. But now, faced with the reality of their defeat, he began to question everything he had ever known. "Mobilize what remains of our fleet," he commanded finally, though doubt lingered in his voice. "We must regroup and reassess our strategy." As they prepared for what lay ahead, Vex Therak felt an unsettling sense of dread wash over him. The galaxy was changing before his eyes, humanity was no longer an insignificant species, they were becoming a force to be reckoned with. "High Commander," KX spoke hesitantly. "What if we cannot regain control? What if this is only the beginning?" Vex Therak turned to face him, determination hardening his resolve. "We will not allow them to dictate our future. We will fight back." But deep down, he knew that this battle had changed everything. The Council's grip on power was slipping away, and humanity was no longer content to remain subservient. As they moved forward into uncertain territory, Vex Therak reflected on what it meant to lead an empire that had once instilled fear across the galaxy. They had ruled through intimidation and dominance, but now they faced an enemy who fought not just for survival but for respect. "Prepare a transmission for all Council members," he ordered suddenly. "We must unite against this new threat." KX nodded and began relaying commands as Vex Therak took a deep breath, steeling himself for what he needed to say. "Fellow leaders," he began as the transmission connected across various sectors. "Today marks a turning point in our history, a day when we learned that our arrogance has blinded us to the strength of those we deemed inferior." He paused, allowing his words to sink in before continuing. "The humans have shown us that they will not be cowed or silenced. They have awakened something within us, a realization that respect must be earned rather than demanded." As he spoke, Vex Therak felt a shift within himself, a recognition that perhaps it was time for a new approach in dealing with humanity. "We must adapt," he continued passionately. "We cannot afford to underestimate them any longer. If we are to survive this conflict and maintain our place in this galaxy, we must learn from them." The holographic display shifted again, showcasing images of human resilience, families banding together amidst destruction and soldiers standing firm against overwhelming odds. Vex Therak felt a surge of admiration mixed with fear. Humanity was rising from the ashes of their past, a force driven by unity and purpose. "Let us come together," he urged his fellow commanders. "Let us forge new alliances and seek understanding rather than conflict." As murmurs rippled through the assembled leaders on screen, WratTH knew he was treading dangerous ground, challenging centuries of tradition and belief within the council. But perhaps it was time for change, perhaps it was time for them all to recognize that true strength lay not in domination but in cooperation. As he concluded his transmission, WratTH felt a sense of hope flicker within him, a hope that maybe this conflict could lead to something greater than mere survival, perhaps it could lead to a new era of understanding between species. With renewed determination coursing through him, WratTH prepared for what lay ahead, the battles yet to come and the sacrifices required along the way, but he knew one thing for certain: humanity would no longer be seen as mere primitives, they would be respected as equals in this vast universe. And so began a new dawn, a dawn where both humans and aliens would have to navigate uncharted territory together, forging paths toward coexistence amidst an ever-changing galaxy.